I've always liked snow more at night. During the day, it's just pretty. But at night, when everything goes quiet and the world turns white and empty, it feels different. Like you're not really part of it anymore. Like you're just a visitor in something bigger. This happened 3 winters ago, on a night when the weather wasn't supposed to be anything special. I remember that because I had checked the forecast that morning before going to work. Just cloudy, cold, but no snow. And I always checked. I live alone in a small house just outside a rural town, and winter storms can turn my road into a trap if you're not careful. That night though, everything was normal when I went to bed. I was lying on my couch watching some dumb show when I heard it. That soft, faint sound. At first I thought it was rain, but then I realized it was. Quieter than rain. More delicate. Snow. I stood up and looked out my front window. Huge flakes were drifting down under the yellow glow of the streetlight. They hadn't been there 10 minutes earlier. The ground was already starting to turn white. I don't know why, but something about it made me restless. I couldn't just sit there and watch it. I needed to go outside. So I grabbed my boots, my coat, and my phone and stepped out onto my porch. The cold hit me instantly, but it felt good. Clean. The air smelled sharp and empty. My street was already silent. No cars. No voices. Just snow falling. I decided to walk. There's a small wooded trail about 5 minutes from my house. It's nothing special, just a narrow dirt path that cuts through a line of trees and connects 2 back roads. I'd walked it hundreds of times during the day. At night, though, especially in the snow, it felt like a completely different place. By the time I reached it, the snow was coming down harder. My boots crunched softly as I stepped onto the trail. The trees on either side swallowed what little light there was from the road. Everything turned dark blue and gray. The farther I walked, the quieter it got. Snow absorbs sound. That's something people don't realize until they experience it. The world doesn't just get quiet. It feels muted, like you're underwater. After about 10 minutes, I realized something strange. I couldn't hear my own footsteps anymore. I stopped walking and listened. Nothing. No wind. No animals. No distant cars. Just absolute silence. I laughed a little to myself, mostly out of nerves, and started walking again. That's when I saw the footprints. They were ahead of me on the trail. Fresh. Sharp-edged. Leading deeper into the trees. I froze. They weren't mine. I could see my own tracks behind me, wide and clumsy. These were narrower, longer strides. Someone else was out here. That alone wasn't terrifying, but that didn't make sense. I hadn't seen anyone enter the trail, and there was no other path nearby. Still, I told myself not to be paranoid. Maybe someone had just been walking before the snow got heavy. I followed them without really thinking about it. The trail curved slightly, and after another minute, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. There was only one set of footprints. Not coming back, just going in. I stopped again, debating whether I should turn around. That was when I heard it. A voice. Quiet. Soft. Too close. Hello? It sounded like it came from just off the trail. I turned toward the trees. Yeah? I called back, instantly regretting it. No answer. I stood there, heart beating faster, staring into the dark between the snow-covered trunks. Hello? The voice said again. This time, I could tell it was a man, and he was closer. I couldn't see him, but I knew exactly where he was. Somewhere to my left, just beyond where the light faded. Are you lost? I asked. There was a long pause. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. I can't see you anymore. I looked down at myself. I was standing in plain view on the trail, wearing a dark jacket against white snow. What do you mean? I asked. I can hear you, he said, but I don't see you. That didn't make sense. Unless. I slowly raised my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the falling snow. And there he was, a man standing about 20 feet away between the trees. He was just standing there, not moving, not blinking. He was wearing a thin hoodie and jeans, completely wrong for the weather. Snow was collecting on his shoulders and hair like he'd been there for a while. Hey, I said, my voice shaking. Are you okay? He didn't answer. He just stared at me. The longer I looked at him, the more something felt wrong. His face wasn't angry. It wasn't scared. It was empty, like he wasn't really there. You need help? I asked. That's when he smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not even a creepy grin. just a slow, unnatural stretching of his mouth. "You're not supposed to see me yet," he said. I didn't wait for him to explain. I turned and ran. Snow sprayed under my boots as I tore back down the trail. My lungs burned. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I didn't hear footsteps behind me. That was somehow worse. I burst out onto the road, slipping and nearly falling, and didn't stop running until I reached my porch. I slammed the door behind me and locked it. Then I stood there, shaking, staring at the door like I expected it to open on its own. A few minutes passed. Nothing happened. I told myself I had imagined it. That adrenaline and darkness had messed with my head. I went back to the window and looked out. The street was empty, but in the fresh snow, right outside my porch, there were footprints. One set, leading up to my front door, and none leading away. This happened during my senior year of high school, about 5 years ago. I lived in a small mountain town back then, one of those places that looks peaceful and cozy in postcards, but feels completely cut off from the rest of the world once winter really sets in. We were used to snow. We expected it. But that didn't make what happened that night any easier to explain. It was a Friday. I know that for sure because I'd just finished a long week of exams and was home alone. My parents had driven downstate for the weekend to visit my grandmother, leaving me in charge of the house. The forecast said we'd get light snow. That turned into a full-blown blizzard by nightfall. By around 8 p.m., thick flakes were hammering the windows sideways, and the wind was howling so loud it sounded like someone was standing outside screaming into the walls. The power flickered once, twice, and then went out completely. The house dropped into silence. No heater, no lights, no Wi-Fi, just the wind and the snow. I lit a couple of candles and tried to distract myself with my phone, but there was barely any signal. Every few minutes, it would switch between one bar and nothing at all. That's when my phone rang. It startled me so badly, I almost dropped it. The screen showed no caller ID. I hesitated for a second before answering. "Hello?" There was static on the other end. Heavy breathing. "Hello?" I said again. A man's voice came through, distorted and faint. "Can you see my house?" "What?" I asked. "I'm on your street," he said. "I can't see anything. It's all white." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean you're on my street?" "I was driving," he said. "The snow came out of nowhere. I had to stop. My car won't move." I walked over to the front window and wiped a circle in the frost with my sleeve. The streetlight was barely visible through the snow. Everything beyond it was just white. "I don't see any cars," I said. "I'm right there," he insisted. "I'm just past the big tree." There was a big tree at the edge of my yard. "Are you in danger?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "It's so quiet. I can't tell if the storm stopped or if I went deaf." That sent a chill through me. "Stay on the line," I told him. "I'm going to turn on my porch light so you can see where I am." I flipped the switch. Nothing happened. Right. Power outage. "I can't turn on the lights," I said, "but I can come outside and look." "No," he said immediately. "Don't." "Why not?" Another pause. "Because you're not the only one out here." My heart started pounding. "What do you mean?" "I thought I was alone," he said, "but I can hear someone walking around my car." A soft crunching sound came through the phone. Snow. Footsteps. "Can you see them?" I whispered. "No," he said. "But they're close, I can feel them." I didn't know what to do. I should have called the police, but part of me was frozen in place, just listening. "Please," he said. "Tell me you can see me. Tell me I'm really here." I pressed my face to the glass, scanning the yard. Then I saw something. A shape moving through the snow near the tree. "Wait," I said. "I think I see." The call cut off. My phone screen went black. I stared at it, trying to call him back, but there was no number. No record. I looked back outside. The shape was gone. But in the fresh snow, there were tire tracks, right at the edge of my yard, and a second set of footprints, leading away from where the car should have been. I used to love walking in the snow. There was something calming about it, the way the world felt quieter, slower, like everything had been wrapped in a soft blanket. When snow fell at night, it felt even more peaceful. Streetlights glowing through drifting flakes, the sound of your own footsteps, the way everything looked untouched. But after what happened during my freshman year of college, I can't stand it anymore. Even now, years later, the sound of boots crunching through snow makes my stomach twist. I was living off campus back then, in a small rental house about a mile from the university. It wasn't far, and during the fall semester I walked it every night without a second thought. The town was small, quiet, and mostly safe. The route home was well lit, and there were always a few people around. But winter changed everything. By early December, most students had left for break, and the campus felt hollow. Whole buildings were dark. The sidewalks were empty. Even during the day, it felt like a ghost town. That night, I had stayed late in the library cramming for finals. I remember glancing out the window around 9 p.m. and seeing snow starting to fall. The forecast had mentioned it, but only a light flurry. By the time I packed up and stepped outside, it had turned into a full snowstorm. The wind was blowing so hard it stung my face. Thick flakes were falling so fast they blurred the streetlights. I considered calling for a ride, but my phone was nearly dead, and I figured it was only a mile. So I started walking. The campus was completely deserted. No voices, no cars, just the wind and the soft hiss of snow hitting the ground. My boots crunched loudly with every step, the sound echoing off the empty buildings. I crossed the main quad and headed down the long sidewalk that led toward the residential streets. That's when I started to feel off. Not scared yet, just uneasy, like I wasn't as alone as I should have been. About 10 minutes into the walk, I heard something behind me. Footsteps. At first, I didn't think much of it. I assumed another student had left the library around the same time. It made sense. But the more I listened, the more wrong it sounded. The steps weren't random. They matched mine. When I slowed down, they slowed down. When I sped up, they sped up. I stopped walking. So did the footsteps. The silence felt thick, like it was pressing against my ears. I turned around slowly. The sidewalk behind me was empty. Just snow stretching into the dark. No one. I stood there for a moment, feeling stupid for being nervous. The storm was loud. My mind was probably just playing tricks on me. I turned back around and kept walking. A few seconds later, the footsteps started again. This time, they were closer. Not behind me, but right beside me. I didn't look. I don't know why, but something deep inside me told me that if I turned my head, something bad would happen. I focused on the sidewalk ahead and kept walking, my heart pounding in my ears. The footsteps stayed with me, perfectly in sync. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I reached the edge of campus where the streetlights became more spaced out. The road ahead led straight toward my neighborhood. There was nowhere else to go. That's when I started running. Snow sprayed up around my legs as I took off. My breath came out in panicked gasps. My boots slipped, but I kept moving, and the footsteps ran with me. Louder now. Faster. I could hear them right at my side, like someone was sprinting inches away from me, matching every stride. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I burst onto my street and nearly fell turning the corner. That's when everything stopped. The footsteps vanished. The wind died down for a moment, and the world went eerily quiet. I slowed to a walk, my chest burning, and finally turned around. The street was empty. No one. No movement. Just falling snow. I stood there, shaking, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. Then I looked down. In the snow beneath the streetlight, I could see my footprints clearly. And right beside them, another set. Same size. Same stride. Walking perfectly next to mine. They didn't stop where I stopped. They continued forward. Up my driveway. Right to my front door. I don't remember unlocking it. I don't remember stepping inside. All I remember is slamming it shut and locking every bolt, my hands shaking so badly I could barely do it. I spent the rest of the night sitting in the dark, listening to the storm and waiting for something to try the door. Nothing ever did. But the next morning, when the snow finally stopped, I opened my front door and looked outside. The two sets of footprints were still there. Mine, and the ones that had walked beside me.